You see, I have all these animations in here. So, of course, I couldn't quite compete with the animations in the morning session, and this is one thing I want to also express as kind of my feeling of gratitude that the organizers have helped to make the results so understandable and visible. So the morning session, I think, was very good from this angle, and we don't always manage to be so understandable and explicit in our presentations. So I don't have quite all these animations in my slides, but I will at least try to give you some figures and content and facts about the research we have funded. You have heard in the morning that we are preparing the next framework program, and as we start to prepare the next framework program, of course, the first thing to look at is what have we managed to get out of the current one and the previous ones. So as always, the first thing for the Commission to do is to take a look back, so the retrospective analysis of the impacts we have achieved so far. And then the other part of it is, of course, to look into the future and try to also have these prospects for the future. And that's exactly what we have been doing in preparing now the Horizon 2020 new policy document. And in my field of activity, being the agriculture, forestry, fisheries, food and biotech research, we have taken a look back at the previous framework programs. And indeed, we covered almost 1,200 projects across these previous framework programs. And even we had 3 case studies from framework programs 3 and 4. So we really went back quite a long time in the history of the framework programs. And what we were looking for, we were really looking for the scientific and technological impacts on innovation, the social environmental impacts, understandably, but also to see whether there has been value added at European level, whether we have managed to structure the European research area, and what has society at large really benefited from the research funded at EU level. So, few things to share with you. What we found was that as to the scientific productivity, the research programs have really been of high quality. We present here a couple of findings that 60% of projects claim to have produced 20 publications, and in some cases where we had very large consortia, such as the Networks of Excellence, for example, the number of publications, scientific publications, went up to 400, which is really a remarkable addition to the knowledge base. What we also found was that the quality of scientists who are attracted by the EU projects is really of a high standing and high level. So here what you see is that in most of our projects, the most cited scientists, most frequently quoted scientists have participated. There are really lead scientists who take part in the framework program projects. And what is also, I think, interesting, and this came out very well in the morning session, a number of the larger projects which we funded, one can see that they are really also shaping these international networks and the impacts of creating new knowledge and creating the networks between the right scientists go beyond the European borders. We also found very positive impact on training of young researchers. So most of the projects have actually trained at least one PhD student or a postdoc. So they indeed always, as part of the approach, also involve new upcoming scientists in the projects. As to now the innovation impact, what we found was that 16% of now the food research projects have led to at least one patent application. And you would also see that these tend to be larger projects. However, when we looked at, let's say, scientific outputs, also smaller ones have been very productive. So I wouldn't want you to have the impression that we are only promoting here large-scale projects. Indeed, there are very good quality small ones as well. And about 28% of the projects have brought at least one new product to the market. And this, I think, is also an essential message which I would like to link to the presentations we heard in the morning. I think this really is the area where more could be done, and this is also one of the findings I'm going to present to you. 39% of projects have led to new processes. So the technologies which have been developed have indeed been taken up in the industries, and we have seen now today several good examples of that. But we have also seen that in some areas, indeed, more could be done, and some of the new technologies, techniques, or knowledge has not been, let's say, taken up yet at the level where it could be. So we would say that as to the impact on food industry, food sector, it has been very positive. Job creation, there are, of course, two ways to look at it. One issue is to look at the projects themselves, the research institutes, the involved SMEs or larger industries which have created jobs. And this is the figure we are presenting here. We were not able to extract the actual, let's say, additional jobs which have been created, since there are also many other factors are actually influencing. And as to the competitiveness issues, and especially participation in international markets, the framework programs have had a positive impact as well. So on these points I will not go much in the detail, but here what you see is that the projects claim to have also positive impact on environment, society, and indeed the European added value is also evident, that most of the researchers clearly state that they would have not been able to come to these outcomes without having the research funded through such consortia at European level, where they were able to collaborate with the best other researchers from other parts of Europe or other parts of the world. And also they have clearly indicated that having the European level funding has worked as a bit like a quality mark, which has allowed them and facilitated them to get additional funding as well. So overall conclusions from the previous framework programs on the positive side are the ones which I have already pointed out. So strong input to technology development. It has helped to structure the research area. There is strong innovation performance and also impact on policies. Now, however, I think what we really need to look at also are the shortcomings and the areas where perhaps the outcome has not been quite at the level what we would like to have. And here 3 points come out very clearly, and I think this also echoes the discussions of the morning session. One quick question is how the businesses can participate, and there we believe that we need to do all the efforts to simplify the participation further, so that it will be lighter for not only businesses but also research institutes to participate in EU-level funding. And furthermore, what I think came out more importantly in the morning was that the potential of the new knowledge which is created is not fully tapped, and indeed there we would need to think of new ways of making the research results more readily available to other researchers, to the industry, as well as trying to translate it into, let's say, language which is accessible and understandable at also everyday level, I would say, a man from the streets, so to say. And there are some things we are already experimenting with in the current call of proposals, which, as some of you may know, is open. So we are now putting in our work programs, in our call for proposals, topics which are exactly targeting the earlier projects of framework programs, with the aim of now giving some funding for exploiting the research results of the previous framework programs or the previous projects. So indeed we are testing this new approach, keeping in mind that by 2014, when the new framework program begins, we would like to be in a better position than today to really make sure that the research is translated into innovation and later on to then services and products which come to the market. So dissemination and exploitation, I mean, these two words and overall the outreach to the target groups clearly remain very, very important priorities. And when we now, or as we now prepare for the next framework program, I would say that these are very much in the focus of our attention. How could we really achieve that better than perhaps in the FP7 it has been possible? So you already heard from our Director General in the morning about the next framework program, Horizon 2020. And just to maybe mention a couple of the deadlines or a couple of the facts in relation of the preparations of it. We are in the DG Research and Innovation really at the final stage of putting this new policy together. You know that it has been built on a very wide, really very extensive public consultation. We received some 750 position papers and really thousands of individual replies as well. This has been then analyzed, put together, and there were specific meetings with stakeholders in the early summer and in July. And now the hope is that the Commission proposal for the next framework program will be adopted before the end of this year. And where then the next level, of course, is Council level and Parliament, which will be looking at it. And we do all hope that both decision-making authorities will make up their mind as soon as possible so that we will have a decision early in 2013, if possible, and we can then start really preparing the modalities of the next framework program, which starts in 2014. And you already heard from our Director General in the morning that the good news from the Commission side is the funding proposal which came out at the end of June, which now foresees significant increase in the funding for research and innovation. And we will see if this will be approved, but I think the starting point is quite important. The amount of funding will significantly increase, and notably the amount for research and agriculture will even be scaled up more than the research otherwise. And for the scientists and industry people here, I would like to mention that we are not, of course, now sitting just quietly and waiting for the next framework program to begin. We are clearly using the last years of FP7 and organizing the calls for proposals, and already now shifting our focus much more on the innovation content of it. So what you will see in our current call, for example, is that there are many more demonstration activities than before, and as I already mentioned, there are specific projects now where we would like the consortia to go back to previous projects and utilize the results and perhaps take some products to the markets. So, and the next year's call, as you know, will be then opened again in summer 2012. This will be the last call of FP7, and there we will already try to align it very much to the logic of Horizon 2020. As you know, the logic is it's based on grand challenges, societal challenges. Among them, the food security, food safety, and bioeconomy has been highlighted as one of the main challenges. And in this regard, I would also like to point out that we are working on a new policy document, bioeconomy strategy, which will come more or less in parallel with Horizon 2020 and very likely will be then adopted early 2012. And this bioeconomy strategy is going to give some, let's say, additional dimensions to the research we run on food and agriculture and fisheries, aquaculture, forestry, by binding this better together and also involving other areas which are closer to policies and kind of implementation end and market creation end. This was very briefly a bit of an overview of what research has brought at European level, and I thank you for your attention.